All right, there we go. Well, welcome everybody to, this is our final UAIM meeting for the CIP planning and delivery projects, improvement projects for 2020. We won't be having a meeting on the 21st in 2 weeks, so that'll be Christmas week, and we'll give everybody a break that week for the holidays. And but we've got an agenda lined up for this morning, and we've got kind of as usual, we got meeting split up here into two parts. We just want to spend a few minutes here at the start, just kind of talking about the end goal, keeping the end in mind, and then a little bit of follow-up from last meeting. I've had a chance to go back to my notes and kind of process what we learned from DC Water and some really good discussion. We'll spend about 20 minutes in the second half of the meeting. Stephen Sechrist from Gwinnett County has shared some of their CIP planning and BCE process information, so he's going to share some of that with us, and we'll have some discussion around that. So any other items for the agenda? I think we've got everybody on the call looks pretty familiar. We got familiar names and faces, so
yeah.
I just wanted to mention one quick thing. For those who are interested in participating in the people topics, the workforce and organizational culture next week, just send me an email if you'd like to. They're on Monday, Wednesday. Monday is workforce, Wednesday is organizational culture, and on Thursday they'll be bringing stuff together. So if you would like to participate, just send me an email, and I'll send you a doodle poll. I did send the doodle poll already, so if you can find that, you can just respond. If not, you can just let me know.
Which gets you invited. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you, Cello. All right, well, just to kind of refresh everybody's memories, and I know you get in these meetings and we get focused and you get excited, and then you go back to your desk and you got 5,000 other things that you're working on as well. But these conversations have been really helpful for me, and this overall project has been really good. And again, this is kind of unique because we're each within our individual utilities kind of working independently. So we're collaborating every couple of weeks, sharing ideas, getting ideas, but we're each kind of working on our own independent improvement initiative. And that's really the goal of this whole thing, is that for you within your utility, or if you're working for a utility to support an initiative, is to make some improvement, to use the concepts for this UAIM, particularly around business process modeling, to understand our processes and then identify improvements and then implement those improvements. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, of just kind of keeping that end goal in mind, and then kind of talking about that. We'll spend a little bit of time just to see how everybody's doing, make sure you have a chance to ask questions of the group, or if you're having a challenge where you might need support from this group and or from our leaders or resources with Scott, Cello, and Mike. So I guess with that, does anybody have any questions about kind of like getting refreshed on what we're trying to accomplish, or what you're trying to accomplish with your project initiative? I don't hear anybody jumping in there yet, so I think that to me would indicate you're either still waking up on a Monday morning, getting going, or yeah, I got it. I know what we're trying to do, and I think I know where we're headed with this. So maybe just kind of throw out there, to make have support you need. I just be interested to hear from folks. How are you approaching your improvement initiative? You know, do you have a team that you're working with, or are you flying solo? Everybody's probably doing it a little bit differently. You know, like last week or 2 weeks ago with DC Water, you know, we saw they're a larger organization, and they've been working at this for a little while, so they actually have a fairly decent sized project team working on this. You know, I'm just kind of curious, where are you guys at? Are you guys have a team of people? You have another couple of colleagues you're working with, or are you flying solo?
We have a team at Loudon Water working on it, so it seems to be going well so far.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
I can share a little bit about Tacoma Water's process. We have a team, but ours is actually part of 4 different focus areas for our planning and engineering group. So we've got 4 improvement initiatives, and the BC process is one of them that Jonathan is actually leading. So we're in the process of figuring out how to have some consistency between these 4 teams on different projects. So we're still in that initiation phase, but we are using our internal city continuous improvement model. We have our own kind of what they call the 4I framework, which is just a lot of continuous improvement principles balled into one. And so we're trying to figure out how to align that continuous improvement mindset and the 4Is with the 4 different projects that we have. So once we have some of that ironed out, I think we'll have more to share. But we do have a team. We have a team lead that is on the call, Jonathan, and we're kind of just figuring out what's our problem statement that we want to have as the start of, before we identify the areas of improvement. Let's just get real clear on what are we trying to improve here.
Okay. Very good. So yeah, it sounds like, so what I heard you say is your guys are still in the project initiation phase, and it sounds like you're tackling a number of different things. So that's good. Else want to share, you know, your project team or your approach and where you're at with your improvement initiatives? I guess I might add too, the other kind of deliverable when we think of end goal in mind is to actually then capture what we've done in each of us, capture what we've done in a case study that we can then provide and feed back to this group as well as the broader you know, utility partner group that can benefit from all the great work that you all are doing. All right, anybody else want to jump in with kind of your project approach or project team?
You're on mute, Jason.
Yeah, Dan, go ahead. Go.
Jason, you're on mute. Okay, he's writing, so let me see the message. My mic doesn't seem to be working. Okay. Okay, so he's going to try to log back in. So Jason wasn't able to share with us. It's okay.
I guess that's a pretty obvious challenge we're all working with, is just dealing with the challenges of technology and connecting virtually and trying to engage people on these types of projects or these types of initiatives, you know, in a different way without being able to connect with people in person.
No.
Yeah, that's those workshops that we had in person were really always very well received, and we were able to, we kind of missed those. But yeah. If the folks are kind of getting started, maybe, oh, there's Jason. Whenever you're ready. Oh, there's Tracy, I see. So we can, what's the next item on our agenda? Dan, is it Stephen to share with us?
Yeah, I guess one other thing we wanted to ask folks too is, recognizing that the business process modeling component of what we do is really important. Just asking the question, do you have a person that
Yes.
you can work with? Because I know this group in particular is, are busy folks that are working on a number of different things, and you may have an interest or a desire to get down into the weeds of developing business process models and flow charts and that kind of thing. But the reality is probably all need someone who can really put those together for us in order to get things documented and be able to clearly communicate those things. So I guess I'm curious, it sounded like when we talked 2 weeks ago that DC Water's got a person has picked up some form of a software and doing flow charting and being able to help them capture things and get things documented. Do other folks have that kind of resource that can dedicate to business process modeling? And I see Jenny shaking her head yes, but
Kathleen has her hand up.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I just
there
want
we
to
go.
clarify that we are also relying on Mike Barnett. We don't have a expert modeler. We just have a resource who is taking the lead on it. But we're definitely relying a lot on Mike Barnett as well.
Yeah, yep. And I would say we're in the same boat. Zach Monroe from our staff has been helping me put together business process models. Well, myself and Scott Parker. And has really been learning Signavio and that kind of thing. But we also have been checking in and reliant on Mike Barnett to help with, learning and expertise. And that's been really beneficial.
Yeah, Dan,
just,
this is Mike. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm out and about, but I got a mask on. So I had a nice session with Darren and Jenny this week, and worked out pretty well. And I know your organization, Dan and Jenny. We talked before, and of course Getachew and Kathleen and Mike Barnes at DC Water. So if there are others that would just like to meet, figure out how we can help you, just let me know. Just send me an email. We have a sort of a set template or blueprint for how we get people organized and spun up, and it seems to work pretty well. So just let me know if there's anything you can do to help.
Okay, very good. Jenny, I think, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to share that I was nodding my head because that is my role, is being the process. I'm a process analyst for planning and engineering, so that is a dedicated role we have within just our work group. And again, like so many things at Tacoma Water, documenting processes is one of our enterprise water goals. So we're in the process, me and another process analyst from a different group are identifying what is the software solution we're looking for to document our core business processes before she leads a whole water-wide effort of, well, what are our core business processes? So it's a hot topic around water.
Okay, excellent. Scott, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just quickly, it almost goes without saying, but what we've learned is that here we're dealing with one business process, and the organization is completely made up of multiple ones. And what we're kind of advocating, and Cello can certainly pile on this, is that we're really looking for, at least for your medium to large size utilities, probably. It's not that small utilities couldn't do it also, but to develop an in-house capability so that you do exactly what Jenny just said, so that you have a standard way of doing it, so it's consistent and it's applied, and you can take what you've learned here and apply it. And we have this standardized business process notation that it has been important to this project, as many of you know. So we're really hoping to, help generate an understanding that that's a need out there for utilities like ones on the phone here to have some in-house capability to do that.
Okay, super. All right. Well, that's good to hear. That's encouraging. Yeah. So we wanted to come back to that and just continue to encourage you to reach out, and Mike, appreciate you as well. So just continue to know that that's available, and that's an important aspect, I think, to achieving that end goal is by continuing to build that capability of the business process modeling and process development. So
Zanetta has her
one idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Zanetta, go ahead.
Yeah.
Good morning. Just wanted to quickly to say that the Mr. Barnett is very resourceful, but I think and I think what we may just want to consider is that we may have every 6 months have some basic training on that. So if we have people who we want to get involved, that we can. We used to have someone that was, we had trained for this, and then, excuse me, they left the organization. So it may be something that we want to offer up every 6 months. And if there's a need for it, we have people to sign up and maybe kind of get that as a reoccurring offering of training, because right now we're all experiencing this kind of revolving door kind of thing. So it may be something to consider to offer to utilities.
Yeah, we'll act on that, Zonetta. Absolutely. Good suggestion.
Yeah, I think, yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, and we had kicked around the idea too of forming some kind of a business process modeling knowledge sharing group, or just a way, Zanetta, I think that's a key point, is keeping people connected, and then keeping people developing, and then also recognizing that there's going to be new people that are going to jump in, and how do we get them ramped up and going, and that kind of thing. So good thought.
And just a quick reminder there, with the folks, I think at Tacoma, right, Cello, we put together a video, which is what, a 3-5 minute video that introduces things. So that might be something to push around to everyone in the group to just take a look at it. It's a good starter video.
It was Metro Vancouver.
Metro Vancouver, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you have the link for that, I'll go ahead and send it to the person that we're going to have trained. So that'd be great. Thank you, Mr. Barnett.
Sure, thanks, Anita. I'll send out an email to everyone on the invite.
All right, excellent. Any other thoughts on business process modeling? I have some good feedback on that. That was kind of our last topic, last question we wanted to ask, just to make sure everybody's getting the support they need. And unless anybody else has anything else they want to bring up on that front, we can shift gears now and turn the mic over to Steven Sechrist with Gwinnett County, and we'll get a glimpse at what he's been working on for his CIP planning and business case evaluation process. So Steven, you want to take it away?
Sounds good. Thank you, Dan. I'm Steve Sechrist with Gwinnett County, Georgia. Just to give you a little bit of background, we are located about 35 miles northeast of Atlanta, and we have a population that we serve with water, wastewater, and stormwater services of about 1 million people. So we're a large utility, and we do export a little bit of water to our neighbors, not a lot, and we do not import any from surrounding counties. So we're pretty self-sufficient in that way. We have one source of water, which is surface water. There's a lake, big lake, called Lake Sidney Lanier. We have a couple of different intakes on the lake. So all the potable water that we produce is drawn from that lake. anyway, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation today, but I do have a couple of documents I wanted to share with you. So I'm going to share my screen now and just kind of show you what we've been working on, both in the way of CIP development, also with the BCE process. So Dan, can you let me know if you can see that screen now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is our workflow for capital projects.
Stephen?
And I think
Stephen?
the most,
Sorry.
yes.
Stephen, I apologize. What we see is your Outlook. So perhaps you can either share your application, maybe it's Word or Adobe Reader or whatever.
There it is.
There it is.
Can I see it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay. It looks like a process flow diagram.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, sorry, that just was on some kind of delay. I don't know why. But in any case, the thing I think that is maybe a little different about our utility from some others is that we have a group of engineers called Operations Technical Services. So you'll see this OTS in a lot of these documents here. And it's a group of people, basically each discipline of the department. So meaning, we've got one for water production, one for water reclamation, one for stormwater, a different one for linear assets. So essentially an engineer assigned to each of those disciplines that works directly with operations on developing capital projects and also following through on those projects as they become real, as they become designed, and as they are constructed. So the OTS engineers stay involved throughout the process, at least in the sense that they are there to make sure the scope doesn't drift too far from the original intent, and that there's good communication between the operations folks and the engineers that are designing and constructing these things. So it's a little bit of a liaison, I guess, position, but it also encompasses what would traditionally be called planning, I guess, because all of the planning is done through the OTS engineers. And a typical capital project, it doesn't matter which discipline we're talking about because this chart really applies to all of the disciplines. But in the center, you'll see this swim lane, which is the OTS responsibilities. So the OTS engineer would attend staff meetings with operations. They could receive emails from operations. They might have a hallway conversation. These are all different ways that new capital projects could be initiated, or at least the thought process would begin there. And that's the beginning of this chart is project initiation. So in one of those ways, we would obtain the need from operations. And then it's up to the OTS engineer to analyze what's going on and to consider the various technologies that might be available to solve the problem. It's not necessarily going to be a replacement of the existing technology. It might be something new available. That's kind of our job, is to look for a better mousetrap to solve these problems, and that occurs in that second step. And then we create a pending project. If you get that far, we create a project in our CIP tracking system. So everybody becomes aware that this project is out there and what a rough budget number is assigned to it. We know that at least there's a request for funding, or informal request for funding at that point. Then we decide whether or not we need a BCE, and that's typically decided according to the estimated capital cost. So if it's $2 million, I mean, you certainly would need one. If it's less than that, you might go with something a little less formal than a BCE, but you still do the similar type of life cycle cost analysis and consider non-cost options as well. So that would be the next step, is if you need a BCE, you perform it at that time. And then you start talking to the engineering and construction group. to sort of warm them up to the idea, let them know this project is coming. And throughout the process, they're going to be coordinating with us. So the engineering and construction staff are typically project managers. They might be engineers, they might be, might have other skills, but they're all trained to manage the projects. So we work with them just so that they're understanding, what the scope of the project is going to look like. And at all times, we keep the lines of communications open with our operations group. So any questions that they might have or anything that we need to know from them, we keep that discussion happening throughout the development of the project. And I guess the next significant milestone is we have a project scoping report that the OTS engineer writes. So this puts everything in words and graphics so that everybody can see what we anticipate the scope looking like. And then we take this report to a emerging CIP committee, which includes management at all levels. So the director is there, assistant directors are there, finance people, everybody that would have to approve the project moving forward gets to see that presentation. And that's kind of a turning point for a lot of projects. I've seen projects, survive that process, and I've seen some that didn't. So once you get to that committee meeting, there's either sort of a yay or nay, or a revision process that that gets us to the next step. So if you make it through that, then the scoping report is approved by the same committee through a SharePoint site that we have. Then at that point, we are free to transfer the project to our engineering and construction group. And then they sort of take it over in that they're going to select consultants at that point to do the design and carry the project forward through its life. But we don't stop being involved at that point. We are invited to all of the the kickoff meeting, all of the design progress meetings, et cetera. And we try to advise, I guess, the process throughout the project development. And so it's a little different from, I think, what a typical planning group might do, because a lot of times, at least in my experience at other utilities, the planning group often would hand the project off and then really not be involved after that. But this OTS group tries to really stay embedded with the operations people so that their needs don't get somehow changed in a way that they would not be happy with. So that's just kind of our process. I wanted this document to be available to anybody that wants to look at it, and I'm happy to answer any questions about this. And I'll just pause there for a second if there are questions on this process, because I want to talk about BCEs.
Yeah, Stephen, this is Scott. I had a couple quick questions. One, is this an annual process? And then the second question is, how does finance and financial constraints get integrated into this?
Yeah, good questions. No, this is a continuous process. So, I attend the staff meetings for water production every week, and often there's input from them concerning new capital projects. So I just keep a list in JIRA of potential new projects continuously. So that's always happening. But budget-wise, we commit to about a year in advance to the next year's CIP. So any projects that have completed this gauntlet here that have been approved, they're also prioritized against each other. So if we have competing projects and we need to push one off for a year or two, we can do that using the prioritization matrix. And we build a budget for each year that way. And the out years are still populated with projects, but they tend to move around more, of course, because we haven't really committed to a budget on those out years. But the current year and the year after that are pretty solid, pretty set in stone at that stage.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions on the CIP process?
Yeah, this is Darren from Loudon Water. Just curious, you said kind of the minimum is like a $2 million project. What roughly is your like annual CIP budget? Just trying to get a sense of scale of your organization. I know you're big.
Yes. Well, you know, I'm kind of focused on water production because that's sort of my my discipline. About 20 million in CIP, but the 2 million threshold I was talking about was for BCEs.
Right.
And even the smallest CIP project, whether it's $20,000 or $1 million or more, would go through this CIP process. But not all of them go through the BCE process. You guys were talking earlier about whether or not there's a team. In our case, there is a team. We're kind of on pause right now because we pretty recently mapped out this CIP process and also updated our BCE process. So we're not actively working on revising these, although as we go through this UAIM research project, we're seeing things. Of course, DC Water had a great presentation that could influence our BCE process. So we may reconvene and start looking at revising it again. So that we're just, we're ready to do that. We haven't done it because we very recently updated this stuff. So did my screen now change to the business case evaluation?
Yes.
Okay, great. And this is, a process flow diagram that's a lot simpler than what DC Water, I guess, presented a couple weeks ago, but it does represent what we do in a BCE. And the steps, I guess, are kind of similar. Once you've identified the team and they are able to develop the drivers for the BCE and frame the problem, we do come up with a succinct problem statement at that point and make sure that we've got an executive sponsor who can look at that and concur with that. And then the brainstorming process with the stakeholders is super important, of course. And this is, I always find this interesting because the ops engineers are running this process, and a lot of times, you'll go into it thinking, oh, I already know what's going to happen here. I know what the answer is going to be before you even get started. But I'm usually wrong about that. There are so many good ideas that kind of come out of that brainstorming process that will either change slightly or even dramatically the results of the BCE. So yeah, that's I guess one of the biggest takeaways for me for the BCE process is that it's not really predictable. It's a collaborative process, and building that consensus is a thing that happens in sort of an unpredictable way. So it's been rewarding to land on some innovative solutions using this process. And another thing I wanted to mention here is that the odds of meeting this, of course, we're scheduling the workshops and we're putting together PowerPoints and talking to all the stakeholders and leading it. But I feel like we do get good participation, but one of the things I think we could do better is to somehow lead that process a little differently. I feel like a lot of times I'm giving a monologue, and then then people are sort of chipping in ideas, and that's good. But I don't want to accidentally influence the process in some way that would be along my bias. You know what I mean? So maybe I'm not the best person to lead it. I think it might be good to have an outside moderator or somebody actually do it. So that's something I'm thinking about now. And I've gone through, I don't know, maybe a dozen of these, and you've been happy with the results. But one way I think we might be able to improve it would be to maybe have somebody else lead these. In any case, we come through the brainstorm solutions, look at fatal flaws for any of those, and rule some of those out. And then we get into life cycle costing and looking at the various risks there. there is, at my organization, there is a lot of weight placed on non-cost considerations. So I've seen projects that where where the most expensive life cycle cost option was selected for some reason. So that does happen, and I would imagine that happens elsewhere as well. But it could be a safety concern. It could be something that would affect the public in a negative way if we did it. So let's not, don't discount the fact that those non-cost considerations could outweigh the cost. And then finally, we try to reach a consensus on a preferred solution, which we've done pretty well at, and then present final recommendations. So that's another, I guess, point where it's a little bit of risk because you don't want to be telling your management what the answer is exactly. You want to couch it in terms that that solicits their input as well. So you could, you have to kind of carefully say that this is the thing that we landed on. This is our recommendation, and here's why. And then hopefully you get through that. So that's our process. We've got a lot more detail in this. This is an SOG that we wrote, so there's a lot of text here you can read through. And there's a larger document. It was a BCE manual that was produced by San Diego quite a few years ago, and we still, to this day, use it as sort of the basis of what we do in BCEs, and we refer to that manual. But we've got this SOG, which is like another layer on top of that kind of makes it more specific to our utility. So any other questions on the BCE process?
This is Scott. I had my hand raised, and I see Kathleen is going to have some questions. But one is, this is really great, and it's I like the simplicity of it as you walk through it. But do you have, we call them in the project artifacts, but basically kind of some detail. For example, we've talked a lot about templates for the analysis that is done for BCEs, maybe, or guidance documents or other things that you referred to. Those would sure be good for the group to have you share those, and to get those in the system. And then my other thing was the OTS group. It sounds like, and correct us here, but that it's kind of a central group that kind of coordinates the process. There may be advocates that are contained within it, but it's and maybe you're struggling with the kind of the objectivity, kind of thing that you were referring to in relation to yourself. But is it that here's the group that tees everything up for final decisions and really conducts the process to make sure that happens? And then you refer it to final decision makers is the way it looks. Is that right? Or it sounds like you're having a little bit of potential struggle with that concept.
Right. So yes, the OS engineer is typically going to lead this whole BCE process. And because, we're also the engineers who have done the research on the available technologies and, what's out there in the world, talk to our peers and other utilities, et cetera, we're going to have an opinion before we even enter this process. So that's kind of where I'm struggling, is that I don't want to bias the process accidentally towards something that I think is, the best thing since sliced bread. So it's a little hard to remain objective, completely objective, if I'm going to lead this process here. That's kind of where our struggle is. But yeah, but the OS engineer is, at least so far, responsible for doing both, for actually, looking into technological innovation and also leading this. And there is lots more detail in the documents. So, if you want to look at those, I think they're already available to you.
Yep.
Yeah, Steve,
Kathleen
this is
had some comments or questions.
Yeah, Steve, this is awesome. And of course, I got more questions after Scott started talking. But anyway, step 7 on the looking at the costs and the risks, and particularly when you mentioned that sometimes the net present value doesn't drive the whole thing. Do you have a set criteria and weighting? Is that done on each project? Who sets it, or is it just qualitative on the non-monetary?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, good question. We do not have a scoring matrix for the non-monetary part, so it really is qualitative. One example I could give you is we have been looking at getting rid of chlorine gas at our water plants for a few years, and the more than 1 BCE has been done on that process, and each time it has been done, the safety issues have just outweighed the difference in cost, because I mean, chlorine is always going to be the cheapest thing, no matter what. But is it worth, you know, another X amount of dollars per year to move away from it? And because the public, you know, is always, there's always new development closer and closer to the water plants, and schools could be, you know, within a mile of a plant. There's security issues, concerns. So there's a lot of things that are considered, but no, there's not a new, like a quantitative matrix to say that these things outweigh the cost.
Yeah, that's fine. So the other question I have is, what's the composition of the BCE team?
Okay, typically, you know, you've got your odds engineer involved. You have to select an executive sponsor who could be somebody at the assistant or deputy director level, one person there. Definitely stakeholders from maintenance and operations of the facility that we're working with. So usually a plant manager, maybe a shift supervisor or two, definitely the maintenance section manager for sure, and maybe his deputy at that specific plant to start with, and then usually a finance person, and sometimes a safety person. So the team, you know, the team is as much of a cross section of folks as we can get, and you know, we haven't had too much trouble getting participation across the different concerns to get a team together.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Wow, Stephen, that I think you've got us speechless. I can hear the wheels turning. So anyway, that's some really good stuff. I took some notes, and I really appreciated your takeaways from your process, and that's some things we need to think about here at KC Water as we're implementing our BCE process here. So really helpful. Any other final questions or comments for Stephen?
I just have a question. Sorry.
Go ahead, Shell.
No, okay. Did somebody have their hand up?
No.
No, okay. Well, I just want to say that this is really useful. Thank you for sharing. And I think that there are some things that you might find kind of informative and valuable from when you from the introduction to the standard notation that we're using to document the processes. I think it would offer you some ways to make add more detail, and I will send after this call. I will send some resources what spurred by Zanetta's comments, the video, the modeling guidelines, and a link to some case studies from the previous phases. I think that the notation offers additional level of detail and precision, and is easier to do analysis. And Mike Burnett will be, and I also, if you need help, we'd be very happy to discuss these things with you. So that's what I had.
Sounds great.
All right, thanks, Chilo. Any other questions or comments before we kind of wrap up? We're going to wrap up a little bit early, but that's okay.
That's okay.
What do we have in store for next time, Dan?
Yeah, there we go. Thanks for the transition. And I think Darren's, I see Darren on the screen. He maybe had a comment or a question.
Yeah, just one. And it was prompted by something Steve said in the middle there, that at times it was like hard to get feedback, or he was worried about the feedback he was getting. And I think that's a challenge, maybe especially over Teams or Zoom or whatever you're using, but getting kind of the right people in the room and having their thoughts actually channeled toward the process is a challenge. And that could be at the BCE or just developing a BCE or wherever you're at. And I just wonder, for future topics or for somewhere in the future, if anyone has great ideas about how to keep people involved or get them involved and get kind of good feedback that's timely, that would be just kind of a parallel topic I would be very interested in.
Okay.
This is Kathleen. I would say be careful what you ask for. Feedback isn't always that much fun.
So would you be, Darren, would you be so kind to just send me an email to make sure that I understand exactly, what you'd like this to look like, so that Dan and me and Scott, so that we can then take into account, so we don't, we're off topic.
And Darren, we've said this before, but I think people here recognize that the whole people side of the engagement is really key, and it may be a bigger problem than the process and the technology you're using. And so we do have these 3 teams that have been meeting, in parallel with this improvement, these improvement initiatives on workforce engagement and on organizational culture and change management. So, those might be, there's really good materials being developed, and there are workshops coming up, and certainly anybody can attend those workshops and participate, and you may get some good ideas. It's evolving, but it's definitely relevant.
Okay, thanks.
And
Yeah,
I also
Darren,
wanted to thank. I also wanted to thank Dan for conducting this call in spite of adverse conditions and him having to hide in the basement and all that. So thank you very much, Dan. This is really appreciated.
Oh, absolutely. No, thank you guys. And Darren, yeah, I noted your comment. I think that's good. And I think too, that's, it's part of that people process, but then also as we're developing our processes, thinking about how we can, make it so it encourages that engagement. Because yeah, that was a good takeaway from Steve's presentation, is the way we set up these processes can impact the quality of the collaboration and the engagement from the people. So it's a good connection there. Well, starting to think about next steps here. So just as a reminder, no meeting on December 21st. Cello, I might just ask if you would set up a time for you and I, Scott, to get together. That way we can kind of get things planned out, set up for January 4th, because that will be our next meeting in the new year. And Steve Talsman and his team from King County is lined up to share what they've been working on with their CIP planning process. So we'll have him on deck, and then we'll also kind of take into account some of these other proposed topics. The two things I have listed are kind of related. Kathleen had brought up last week, and I think also Jeff brought up the CIP planning stakeholder engagement, like who to involve, how, and when. And I think that definitely ties in with what Darren talked about as well. So we'll kick that around and see how we might be able to incorporate that into some of our discussions going forward, since that seems to be of real interest. So any other topic requests or thoughts before we close out for today?
Just since we're not gonna have a meeting on the 21st, Merry Christmas, everybody from the Los Angeles, which is we will be on total lockdown for the next 21 days. So, yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all in the next year.
Thank you.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.
Stay safe.
Stay
Thanks,
safe.
Tom.
Thank you.
Be
Bye.
careful.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.